If you're not dealing with Kaye, it ain't the truth. Welcome to the Truth Talk Show.
1, 2, 3, 4, hit it!
Welcome to the Truth Talk Show, where we are the truth in entertainment, music, and news. I am your girl, Kaye TheTruth. Google me, www.kaythetruth.com. In studio today, we have the one, the only author, community leader, and activist, Vincent Lewis Hall. Hello, Vincent. How are you?
I'm doing great. How are you doing today, Truth?
Hi, I'm doing fabulous. I'm so excited to have you in the studio to talk politics, talk business, to talk news.
Well, it's a pleasure to have been asked. I appreciate the work that you do. I've followed your work since you started a few years back, and I appreciate the fact that you are a dedicated young entrepreneur who's serious about not only helping yourself but helping this community.
Oh, my goodness, y'all. He has me smiling. That's an honor coming from him. Since he's talking about my work, let's get into his work. With you being a community leader and an activist, what does that mean to you?
Well, by profession, I'm retired from AT&T, so I was in telecommunications, running basically call centers for a number of years. Since then, I've been working for Dallas County Commissioner John Wiley Price. Right now, I'm working in his road and bridge district, which is basically we secure the roads and bridges in the unincorporated areas of Dallas County. So it might not belong to Lancaster or DeSoto or Cedar Hill, but at some point, if it's still in the county, it has to be maintained. So we handle all areas of that as much as far as construction and maintenance.
Family, he holding out on us. I'm telling you. There are pictures of Vincent Lewis Hall in the streets with signs protesting. So you got to come on with it. We on the Truth Talk Show.
Well, as a matter of civic responsibility. I mean, for a number of years, I was part of the Warriors, a group of citizens who decided to take it upon themselves to assail different business and corporate and government institutions that were not being forthright or forthcoming or inclusive of African American and Hispanics at the rate that we represent the city. And so for a number of years, we picketed the Dallas Police Department, the Dallas Fire Department, Parkland Memorial Hospital, all of the major television changes, Channel 8, Channel 5, Channel 4, and a number of other interests. But basically what the inclusion that you see today, there's no happenstance that you have a black female that's running the Dallas Police Department. You just had a Hispanic female who was running the Dallas County Sheriff's Office, and she's been succeeded by a black female, Miss Marion Brown. You look at Tracy Gully, the first black constable in Dallas County. A lot of that work was not in vain, because years later, it does have an impact. And we don't do it to the detriment of any other race or any other people. It's just that we want to make sure that everybody in Dallas County is represented fairly. And that's what our goal has always been. Back then, it was in the streets. Now it's a little bit different. But you still have to maintain a presence. I always tip my hat to Commissioner John Wiley Price, who has never lost focus, even though he's had all sorts of challenges and all sorts of issues to have to deal with. He never took his eye off the ball. It's all about inclusion. It's all about diversity. And when it's all said and done, that's what makes for safe communities. If you have people who don't live in our neighborhoods who are charged with the responsibility of policing them, then there's going to be some issues, because they don't always come in with the same kind of cultural understanding that we need to see. So it's a matter of always staying with it. I mean, it's a never-ending job. It's always something going on. One of the reasons that I started writing an article, and I can say that this week will be my 15th anniversary writing for the Dallas Weekly. Since then, I write for the Texas Metro News, the Garland Journal, and a few other papers with Cheryl Smith. But one of the reasons I started writing was because What Drake said was really true. Drake said in one of his songs that when you write your story, don't let someone else hold the pen, because we filter all the information that comes to us through the lenses and the values of other people. And so my job and my occupation is to make sure that when you look at editorial comments or stories, that it has some lens that allow you to see yourself and your people and how you interpret it. The way we interpret Donald Trump today is completely different than any other community. I was telling someone not too long ago, he came out and he basically assailed the Mexicans, Hispanics. He came out and assailed the Muslims. But for African Americans, it was hurtful because we've been there before, and we're still there, and we're always very cognizant. We always realize whenever racism raises its head, it might not be pointed at us, but it's coming our way. And so the best way to help deal with racism in our community is to make sure that we eradicate it in everybody else's community.
Right. Actually, I want to go back to your column, and I love these two words: quit playing.
Quit playing. Quit playing was my mother's last 2 words of warning to you before she got on to you. She would often say, Vincent, quit playing. And when I started writing it, my purpose in it is that we are at the warning stage, and we have been for a number of years. We play a little bit too much. We don't take our responsibility as citizens, i.e. the right to vote, the need to vote. We don't always have full charge and control of our children. It doesn't matter if the children live in your house. If they're educated in schools where you have no input, then you're playing. And to think that you're going to get a good outcome from that is just ridiculous. We don't take care of our health the way we should. We play with our health. We play with our finances. We spend money we don't have to impress people we don't like and who could care less about us. And so quit playing is just an amalgam of those things I think we need to do to take life seriously. We play too much. There's a time to play. There's a time to have a good time. But a lot of times we spend more time with the good time than we do with the formative times when we need to be creating policy. We need to be creating boundaries. We need to create an economy. We've got a lot of things that need to be done, and we take too much respite and not enough work.
You know what, family? I need to call him Reverend Vincent Lewis Hall, because he just took us to church and broke it all the way down. You definitely you had me like, okay. I enjoyed that. But the quit playing, those 2 words say a lot. So
they
with
really
the quit
do,
playing, you also wrote a book, a successful book, Quit Playing.
I did. It's basically a collection of what I consider my best editorials over the years. I write 1 per week, sometimes 2 or 3. And over a few years, you collect quite a few. So I selected about 80 or 90 of those and put them in a book. It's been about 10 years ago. And I'm actually planning another book now. I want to do something along kind of a biographical about Commissioner Price. And from my vantage point, being friends with him now for almost 25 years, maybe longer than that. Probably it actually has been longer than that. I've had a bird's eye view. And unlike what people would suspect, a lot of people see, a fairly charismatic guy who drives nice cars and wears nice clothes. But they don't know the pain, the insult, and the burdens that he bears with those. And I think I want to be able to tell the other side. There's nothing that he does that can be considered simple. If he has his name on it, people who don't like him, they might not be able to get back at him in a way that's very public. But even in the smallest details, you see where he has to fight. He always has to fight.
And that's the thing that I dislike about our people. Because when you have people in power, it's always people that look like you that try to bring you down. I don't care what role it may be. It may be, for instance, I'm really speaking about myself and what I do, it's always someone that looks like me to try to bring me down instead of helping each other or helping me get to the next level or help Commissioner Price get to the next level, which he has done an outstanding job in the Dallas area. So I commend him for that. And he, like you said, he never dropped the ball. Regardless of all the trials and tribulations he went through, he's still here putting it down. And you have those in the background that's kind of looking at him sideways. But, hey, he's staying focused. And that's
and that's what you have to do. I mean, you have to get past all of your personal feelings. A guy told me years ago, when I first became a chief steward in the union, he told me the way to win is not take it personal. He says if you take it personal, you will lose. You cannot get personal. You cannot lead people and not love people. If you don't have a love for them, even though at that particular time you might not be just totally in love with them. I mean, if you don't have a love for people, then you just can't, there's nothing you can do to help them. So even your enemies have to be treated with a certain amount of regard so that, you can make a difference.
You are listening to Pure Truth Radio, the truth in entertainment, music, and news, your 24-hour streaming station.
You know what? On the Truth Talk Show, one of the things I love to do is to put people on the hot seat. So I'm not going to burn you up. I'm just going to let it simmer a little bit with some, easy questions. Ranging from maybe a little bit of business to politics.
It's time for the hot seat.
So with that being said, many people refer to Donald Trump as one of the greatest presidents ever. I tend to disagree. But what are your thoughts on Donald Trump as your president? Because he's not mine.
Not even close. I mean, actually, probably one of the worst. I think the tragedy in America is that we tend to grade everything by money. And in my opinion, I wouldn't care how well the economy does if we have drifted away from each other as a people. And I'm talking about the racial polarization. I'm talking about the political polarization. And I want to make sure that people understand this is not all Donald Trump's fault, but he has not helped it at all. And I think that's what we've got to start. Between that and the fact that we have become the laughingstock and the pariah for so many other countries around the world, it does not bode well for America. And so while a lot of people get hysterical about him as a person, again, I don't take it personally. What I look at is that he has come with some sentiments that a lot of people wanted to spread for a number of years. So if Donald Trump left this world today, your problem wouldn't be over. Pandora's box has been opened, and now the whole issue of race, the whole issue of sexism and misogyny, the whole issue of political failure to the point of utter polarization has got to be dealt with. The good thing about Donald Trump is that this has to be the bottom. America has to be at its bottom. And as a nation that is about to become bigger and browner and more diverse, it gets by a lot of people. But the fastest growing racial and ethnic group in America right now are the Asians. People talking about Hispanics. There are a lot of Mexicans who are opting to go back to Mexico because that economy is getting better. And so America is not going to look the same. We've got to find a way to socialize, and that means that we've got to learn how to understand each other. We have got to put some time in. I always feel especially sorry for those families that are mixed families. How do they deal with it? We put upon them in a very consuming way. It's one thing that every family has some tribalism in it, but when your tribe is a mixed tribe, you got a lot to deal with. So I think he's probably the worst in that aspect. He wasn't suited for the job. He never expected to get the job. But you can't get by the fact that a lot of people voted for him, and that's what we've got to try and reconcile.
Those people that voted for him, in my opinion, were undercover racists. Because Donald Trump, well, I will say this, he says, he's pretty much out in the open, but he speaks for those people. I call them closet racist, but hey, that's...
Well, I mean, I think deplorable was a good word. And the thing about it is, it's not closet anymore. It's out. It's out there.
I think they're out now because he stepped out. But before they were on the low. Now they're still like, okay, we can say whatever.
Yeah, and I think that's the best of what he did was he actually brought it out. It was one of those it needed to be seen. It needed to be done. We really needed to see that. So I just think in the long run, I don't think that there's anything that happens that can't be used as a corrective. I'm a firm believer that I can teach almost as well from a bad example as I can from a good example. So
I like that.
Yeah. It's all a teachable. Everything's a teachable moment. It's just a matter of how you package it. Sometimes it might become more challenging, but it.
I have a couple more hot seat questions. When I say these words, what do you think? White flight, revitalization of South Dallas.
When you use the term white flight, I think of our school district because I think that's where you see it the most. Even in communities where we're living together, with all races of people, we don't go to school together. Dallas Independent School District right now is 73% Hispanic, about 26%, about 24% African American. Everything else is other. But there might be maybe 2 or 3% white in our school district, and therein lies our problem. It's hard to raise a diverse society when we don't have any diversion in our society. People who have means have always gone to schools away from all of us. In fact, they don't really care to be with us regardless of race. It's more about status and class. But we've chosen to pay money, and a lot of times we got parents who paying money that can't afford it, who pay money to go to schools where they're not mixing with other kids. And I think that when you say white flight, that's most of what I think about. The revitalization sounds that at this point I would rather see us concentrate on emerging of the gentrification efforts than revitalization. South Dallas is going to be revitalized. The question is going to be who can afford to live there when it's done. If you look at the mayor came out with this Grow South initiative. But when you look, we really grew west. You can go downtown Dallas from the Loose Dairy Justice Center, the jail. You can go back west for almost 5 or 6 miles. And major development, apartments everywhere, eating establishments. I mean, it's just blown up, that whole area, almost into the medical district. And what you see is a whole lot of poor people, a whole lot of brown and black poor people were moved out of that area, and it's been infused with basically it's a diverse group. But the socioeconomic status is so much higher because where there used to be houses that were rented for $350 and $450 a month, they've all been torn down. They've been replaced with apartments that are really at least $1.10, $1.20 a foot, which means for most apartments that's going to be at least $800 at a minimum. That's a very small apartment, and then up to $2,000 or $3,000. And so they've just been priced out of that market altogether. So when we talk about revitalization in South Dallas, I think we have to talk about making sure that we manage the gentrification. It's too late to stop gentrification because the land has already been sold for the most part. So now what we need to do is we need to have a seat at the table when those decisions are made about what kind of growth and development is going to take place in those particular areas.
I have to agree with everything you said. And I want to touch back on when you were talking about the education in the schools. I had went into the school that's off 30 Lane, and I wanted to do like a mentoring program, come into school and help with the mentoring. And I was like, okay, this is it. And I call that area Pleasant Grove, I don't know. So I was in there, and I was talking with the lady at the time, and she broke down the numbers, and I was in shock that the majority of the people in the school was Hispanic. And I was like, what? But when I walk outside, I see all these people that look like me, black people.
Right.
But when she said Hispanic, I was like, these numbers cannot be right. So when you say that, I was like, wow, I was in shock.
Yeah, it is. I mean, you know, I was, my daughter's getting ready to go to Townview. And Townview has been one of the top 10 schools for almost the last 20 years, has been number one 5 or 6 times in that span. And that student body is basically about 71% Hispanic, about 23% African American, 2 or 3% white. Because even, and the reason for that in the ISD is that so many African Americans who are middle class or to some degree, I guess what you call affluent, have moved to the suburbs. And so between the suburban schools and this rush we've had to charter schools, you know, it's real interesting to me that we talk about how great charter schools are, and you can't find a charter school in North Dallas, period. If charter schools were so great, you would have seen them there somewhere. I mean, so basically what we've done is we've allowed people to come out and privatize these schools, and in a lot of cases, the faculties that they have, from the classroom teacher to the assistant principal, is woefully short in credentials and in experience than the ISD, than a very low school district. And, you know, somehow they allow us to make us believe that it's better, when what we should have done was, in most cases, we should have fought in the boardroom at DISD and got our just due right there. But, you know, I mean, people have a right to do whatever they think is. I'm a firm believer. I don't care where your child goes to school. If the parents are following them there and active in their lives, they can salvage whatever it is. My middle daughter went to Carter High School. She was a salutatorian. Now she has a PhD. Anything can happen if you follow their education. But what I don't like to see is us being sold a bill of goods that because that the inner city schools are horrible and everybody else's schools are better. Well, what they don't tell you is that in charter schools, they don't have to take children who have problems, whether it's emotional or acting out, or especially if they're special education. They don't make provisions for that. And so you have to put all of that into the numbers when you bake a comparison between public school, private school, and charter schools. So I just think it's unfair. I think we have subrogated our rights and our responsibilities to raise our children and to educate them to something that looks easy and that somebody sells us as the right thing to do at the time.
And that goes back to me working with Top Texas Organizing Projects when they was pushing for the no home rule in the charter schools. And the way it came out, the information that those particular people, whoever it was giving out, it made it look like charter school was so much better. If you don't do your homework, you will believe that. But once you understand that charter schools, they don't have to listen to anything the parents say. They have their own rules, and it's like you lose. So we definitely have to do our homework. When companies, organizations, schools, or whoever bring information to us, you just can't read what they say and think it's okay. You have to dive in deep and do your homework. So you're very much right on that.
That's right.
The Truth Talk Show Network Radio is the truth in entertainment, music, and news.
Let's get on to another hot seat question. See, you know what? Mr. Vincent Hall quit playing with us. He ain't playing with us today, family. He coming with the knowledge. What are your thoughts on the FBI war on BIE, B-I-E, Black Identity Extremists, war against domestic terrorism. It's basically where they go in and I use the word go in and try to take down certain people or certain organizations such as Black Lives Matter or anything like that, anything pro-black, but we don't have anything in place for the KKK. Have you heard about BI?
You know, I think it's par for the course for a Justice Department that's run by a neo-Nazi racist like Sessions is. I didn't expect anything more than that. He is the same kind and element that created a vehicle to kill the Black Panther Party, the COINTEL program. It's the same thing. It's the very same thing as calling, terming all Muslims that they're right-wing extremists or terrorists. What the Republicans have become very good at doing is taking a term, turning a phrase, and getting people to believe in it. But what they do is, in that name, is terror itself. It sounds like somebody you ought to be scared of. It sounds like they're black, they're mean, they're anarchists, they're out to kill anybody white. They don't. And nothing could be further from the truth. Out of all of the movements in the world, no one has been, even before now, even during the civil rights struggle, no one has been more nonviolent than we have been. Nobody. You don't have to find terrorism among the Muslims. You can go back to when the IRA, the Irish Republican Army, was fighting internally in Ireland, and they were some of the most brutally terroristic people you could ever find. So, we talk about terrorism in terms of race and region. I think terrorism a lot of times comes from the desperate or the degree to which you feel like you have to fight your way out. If I was a Palestinian right now, if they have terrorists, I understand that, because they have basically been placed in a new age apartheid system. And the fact that Trump went along with Netanyahu and that government, and then sell it to Christians as if it's part of the Bible. I know what the Bible says. We were all raised with that, and, but when it's all said and done, God does not allow any race of people to trump the love and respect that we're supposed to have for our fellow man. God is no respecter of persons. So that tells me that I don't care who you are not superior by race, birth, or religion.
Very well said.
You are listening to Pure Truth Radio.
With us just stepping out into 2018, we had a lot of positive news, and we had a lot of not so pleasant news. What are some of the ahas or the oh my news of 2017 that caught your eye, and why?
Well, real close to me. I was a real aha for me was the acquittal or the hung jury that came with Commissioner John Wilder Price. I watched him go through that for 6.5 years, and it's amazing to me. Anyone else would have lost their hair, would have lost their nails, and would have lost their minds. It was an aha moment for me that when you're living right and you got faith, you can beat anything. And I think that's a testimony that all of us need to understand, because I think one of the problems that we've gotten into, especially among African Americans, is we rely too much on intelligence, knowledge, and wealth, when what we really ought to be worried about is our spirituality. We need to spend more time fasting, praying, meditating, whatever you want to call it, but being self-reflective than we do depending on all these other means to get up or to get ahead. So, I mean, that was one of those for me. Out of all the things that I could have thought of, and he had a wonderful legal team, unbelievable. Now, one of the oh my moments was the fact that after all of that, and after everything that was taken from him, he won't get any of it back because they've already ruled that he has to forfeit everything. And, they talk about the money that was in the safe or whatever, but that's, they took property. They took a retirement, some parts of a retirement account. I mean, that's just unbelievable. It's just amazing to me that you can be stripped of all your worldly goods for a charge that they can't prove. That's just, to me, it's just unbelievable. So that was my aha and my oh my moments all in one. I had a front row seat. Yeah, I had a front row seat for it. Yeah.
I'm like this, and family, y'all know I try not to get upset, but hey, how can you take something from me? Okay, I go to court, I win, and you not give it back. What part of the law is that? Help me understand.
Hey, now that the Republicans have this new found love for assailing the FBI and all that other stuff. Let me tell you something. Unfortunately, in America, all of its major institutions have been used at one time or another, or several times, to run roughshod over the rights of minority people, whether it's minorities or women or whatever you want to call it. Our justice system has been used as a weapon against undesirables, people that we don't care about or want in our midst.
The Flame Show, The Truth Talk Show, The Ladies Answer, World of DJs, and The Street Show, all powered by The Truth Talk Show.
Okay, and this is going to be, my last hot seat question. Well, it's not really hot. Okay, so with you being a leader in Dallas, community leader, activist, what are your top 4 issues with the city of Dallas, and how do you think we should address them to correct them?
For me, it's real simple. It's all in one. We've got a lot of skyscrapers. We've got more cranes downtown Dallas than anywhere you can imagine. We're building roads and bridges everywhere. But in the shadows, we have a growing homeless population that is just, it's embarrassing. It's embarrassing that we have as many. If I had my top 4, take care of the homeless. Number 2, take care of our children. We have a 24% child poverty rate. Number 3, take care of the mentally ill, because half of the people that are homeless or in jail have mental problems. And then finally, take care of the addicted. I know that none of those sound like they're going to make any community prosper any more than it already has. But we've got to get away from trying to make money and try to make people again. We have got to raise the quality of life in Dallas. There's no way that you can be proud of Dallas if you live in the vicinity where I live and see the number of people who sleep on the sidewalks in record cold. It's just unbelievable. It's untenable that we could have people who are basically sleeping on the sidewalk in 18-degree weather. And they're so tired from their sojourn back and forth until they can actually sleep. So I think most of what I see is we've got to take care of the least of these. We can. It's easy to build. We've proven we can build airports. We can build stadiums. We can build anything you want. There's no shortage in Dallas of the accoutrement. We look like we're rich until you peel back the covers, and we're really poor. Because when you have this many poor people, the people who have money are living in poverty too. But their poverty is spiritual poverty.
I tell people all the time, I say we are all one paycheck away from being homeless. And one of the things that I found baffling to me when I would go out with, people and feed the homeless in downtown Dallas, they would actually come and pick up the food. And I was like, wait a minute, so you're telling me that we giving them food, toothbrush, blankets, and all this stuff out to them, and you pick it up?
And, Jesse Jackson was talking about the working poor 30 years ago, and we still have the working poor with us.
But I wanted to go back to one other thing that you spoke on, too, when we was talking about South Dallas and who can afford it. I say that all the time because you see the different stores coming along close to the fair, and then they kind of inching on in. Pretty soon, what's going to happen to those people that's already living in South Dallas? Because you can tell that it's not an expensive area. So if you build all, where are they going to go? They're going to come.
Well, that's where gentrification takes over. I mean, that's when you build a couple of apartment complexes that have more people in them than 5 or 6 city blocks of streets, then the whole area takes on a whole new ambiance. I mean, the problem is that in our gentrification efforts, we still are leaving food deserts. So I live downtown, but I still live in a food desert. And so what we got to do is we got to make sure. And the thing about it is that we can do it in a way where we gentrify, we keep as much of the old neighborhood as possible, but we create the infrastructure around it that makes it appealing to everyone. You don't want to price people out, but you also don't want for people to have to drive 45 minutes from their home to get a smoothie. It's unbelievable. But in all of Oak Cliff, from downtown all the way back to Cedar Hill, there are 2 places you can buy a smoothie. There's a Smoothie King, and then there's a smoothie factory, and it's actually in a gas station. And I think there might be one more in Cedar Hill. So, I mean, what that says is that people who live in those areas for 60, 70 square miles don't have a decent place to get groceries. I mean, so your health is impeded or is worsened by the fact that you can't even get to good fresh food, and that's untenable. That's not. We can't work with that. We got to do better than that.
And people can compare the grocery store in South Dallas. Look at their vegetables, the brightness of it. Compared to a grocery store in just say Highland Park. You can tell that the food is definitely different in those locations.
Sure you can. Yeah, sure you can. Yeah, you can. In fact, I live on the south end of downtown, and I basically have to travel either to on the other side of the tollway in order to get fresh food and produce. So yeah, it's but Dallas can be the city that it's always wanted to be, but we've got to take care of the people who can't take care of themselves. That's all it is to it. There's no ifs, ands, and buts. We've got to do a better job at that. And I am saddened that the man that was tapped as the homeless czar in 2000, 2007, 2008, later became mayor. And Rawlings has done nothing about the homeless except try to find a way to get rid of them. So that is one of the, nothing bothers me more than that. If he has a legacy, I don't care what it is, I'll always remind people he didn't do a damn thing for the poor. And for that, he gets no love from me.
Right on.
It's time for the wind down.
Well, Mr. Quit Playing, I want you to leave us with some words of wisdom, which you gave us a lot. But we time to wind on down. Give us some words of wisdom and shout out your social media and tell people where they can find you.
Okay, well, I'm at Vincent Hall on Facebook, as I mentioned at the beginning. I'll end with what I began with. Aubrey Drake Graham, a Canadian rapper we know as Drake, says that when you write the story of your life, don't let anyone else hold the pen. And that works as a people, and that works for individuals. Write your own life. Do your own thing. Tell your own story. Live your own life. You cannot continue to allow everyone else to franchise their attributes onto you. You cannot live with other people's expectations or idiosyncrasies about you and your race. You have to write your own story. History will never be correct unless we get in and write the story.
We definitely want to thank Mr. Quit Playing Vincent Lewis Hall for stopping by the Truth Talk Show. I am your girl, Kaye TheTruth. Always stand in your truth.
If you're not dealing with Kaye, it ain't the truth.